Everyone, so we invited organizations and agencies to testify before the committee. The mayor had apologized for her absence today, but she did send her chief of staff to testify on her behalf. And then we'll just go down the list based on the agenda. So we'll start off with the mayor, or the chief in this case, the chairman, the RD for finance, and then the RD for commerce. And then unfortunately, the president of the Rhode Chamber of Commerce is unable to join us today, but he did submit comments to the committee, and I will share that with the members as well. And so we'll begin in about a minute. Everyone, it is now 4:07 p.m. and with 5 members present, we have the necessary quorum to proceed with today's public hearing. And so I therefore call this meeting to order. With that, can I recognize Ellie to take roll?
Senator Selena Arbabalsa. Senator Carl Arkin Neighbors. Senator Karina El Magofia. Senator Donald M. Mangonia.
Present.
Senator Paul A. Mangonia.
Here.
Senator Dennis C. Mendiola.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, 5 members are present, 1 member is absent.
Thank you, Jolene. With 5 members present, again, we have the quorum to proceed. And just before we proceed, I'd like to introduce the members of the committee. To my far left is Senator Paul Mangonia. To my immediate left is Senator Selena Babauta. I chair the Fiscal Affairs Committee. I'm Donald Mangonia, and then to my right is our Vice Chair and Floor Leader, Senator Karina Magofnia, and to her right, Senator Dennis Mendiola. Assisting the committee this afternoon from the legislature, we have our Sergeant at Arms, Ben Terlahi, our IT Manager, Jonathan Diaz, our legal counsel, Joe Bermudez, and our legislative assistant, Jolene Tagawal. And then I'd just like to recognize the presence of our youth senator, Mr. Senator Cabo. Thank you for being here. Before we proceed, I'd like to, or can I get a motion for the adoption of today's agenda?
Chairman, I move to adopt today's agenda.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move down to item 4, public comments, and we've invited 5 entities to come before the committee to testify on the 5 tax bills that are in the Fiscal Affairs Committee. And just to briefly summarize these bills, we have our first bill, House Bill 2307. We're requesting comments on the proposed substitute that the committee has worked on. This would increase cigarettes from its current rate at $3.75 per 20-piece pack to $5. That's a $1.25 increase with an additional 50 cents a year for the next 4 years. And the proceeds from the increase will go is being allocated to fund certain programs and agencies that support or that provide health services, mainly medical referral program, the Medicare match that we normally appropriate funds for, GHLI, some for enforcement with customs and biosecurity, and then some for several programs and outreach. We also have House Bill 2341, House Draft 1, which is to establish an excise tax for betel nut or areca nut and lime mix, Ophok or Wesh. This proposal is to charge betel nut at $5 per pound imported and lime or Ophok at 10 cents per ounce. Of the excise tax for these items, 50% will be allocated or is proposed to be allocated to medical referral, 10% to customs and biosecurity, the rest into the general fund. We also have House Bill number 2368, House Substitute 1, to impose a 10% ad valorem tax on private individuals purchasing vehicles from dealerships on private parties outside the CNMI, excluding businesses or commercial entities and for other purposes. This proposes an additional about 5% taxes on the private individuals wanting to bring in to import vehicles from outside the CNMI. These monies will be allocated to the general fund. House Bill 2378, House Substitute 1, is to increase the tax imposed on soft drink and alcoholic beverage containers. The current rate is at 5 cents a container. The proposal is to increase it to 15 cents per container for both soft drink and alcohol, so that's a 10-cent increase. And of these excise taxes, 10% is allocated to customs and biosecurity, and the rest into the general fund. And then the fifth legislation is House Bill 2374, House Draft 1. It's to impose an additional 3% tax on yearly gross revenue of construction activities in excess of $250,000. However, this will exempt the 3% increase on residential housing, and it will not apply to current projects that are ongoing right now. And so with that, I would like to invite our first speaker to come before the committee. Again, as stated earlier, the mayor unfortunately could not be here, so she sent a representative.
Test. Okay. Excellent. Hafidez and Tiro. For the record, my name is Dean Reynold A. Maglonia, and I am currently the Chief of Staff for the Office of the Mayor for the Island of Rota. The good mayor sends her apologies for not being present today, and to communicate this herself. And I just wanted to quickly thank Chairman Maglonia and the distinguished members of this committee, and for giving us the opportunity to speak on these new proposals. So going down the line, starting with House Bill number 23-07. On behalf of the Mayor's Office, I am here to present my oral testimony for the opposition of House Bill 23-07, which proposes to increase tobacco product taxes generally. Um, but to be more accurate, to update the definition of tobacco products in the CNMI excess tax laws, bring tobacco tax rates to the recommended level, and set tobacco rates to increase with inflation. While we appreciate the intent to generate additional revenue, we believe that the bill imposes significant drawbacks to the public health and the economic well-being of our community. Our concerns with House Bill 23-07 are as follows, which is the impact on public health. Increasing tobacco disproportionately burdens low-income individuals and families who are more than likely to be smokers. While this may lead to decreased smoking rates, it raises concerns about exacerbating existing health disparities within our community. Additionally, focusing solely on taxation without comprehensive public education and smoking cessation programs, which may not deliver the desired public health outcome. The economic impact is another concern. Higher tobacco taxes can negatively impact small businesses. Now, an alternative revenue source, we urge this committee to explore other alternative revenue sources that do not have negative health and economic consequences, focusing on diversifying economy through tourism, agriculture, and other sustainable industries that might offer a more long-term and beneficial solution. With regards to House Bill 23-41, our primary concern with this bill is a potential public health benefit, again, which aims to discourage, although it aims to discourage we do not use. Concerns exist regarding unintended consequences. The increased cost could disproportionately impact lower income communities, again, potentially leading to unsafe alternatives or increased dependence on informal, unregulated markets. In addition to that, the cultural significance. Binonat holds cultural significance for many of the CNMI residents. Implementing the excise tax without due consideration to cultural sensitivities could create social discord and negatively impact community relations. And of course, the economic impact, the bill might adversely affect small businesses and vendors who rely on Binonat sales for their livelihood. This could lead to job losses and economic hardship, particularly with specific communities. Moving on to House Bill number 23-68. Now, our primary concern with this particular bill is the increased vehicle costs. Although 10% tax the 10% tax that is described in this bill would definitely burden our local residents, particularly those who are seeking more affordable options by purchasing outside the cinema. The impact to middle and lower income families would create an additional financial hardship to an island that's already struggling. Negative economic impact, the bill might deter residents from purchasing vehicles outside the cinema, potentially harming local businesses that rely on this segment of the market. This could lead to lost revenue and reduce competition within the local auto industry. In addition, the administrative burden implementing and enforcing the proposed tax could create a complex and costly administrative burden for both government and vehicle owners. So if I may move on to House Bill 23-78. This increase in this particular, we oppose this bill to increase tax on soft drinks and alcoholic beverage containers because increased taxes often disproportionately burden low-income families and individuals who spend their high percentage of their income on essential goods like beverages. This raises equity concerns and potential negative impacts on our community's well-being. In addition, limited effectiveness, while the bill aims to deter consumption, and we get it, concerns exist about the true effectiveness. Revenue gains might be offset by decreased sales, impacting businesses and potentially leading to job losses. So now, moving on to House Bill 23-74, which proposes to impose an additional 3% tax on the yearly gross revenue of construction activities in excess of $250,000. Um, for the record, the Office of the Mayor is opposed to this bill simply because it discourages development in our island. With development costs going up, and I'm sure I have a professional contractor who's sitting right next to me. I'm pretty sure he would attest, Mr. De La Cruz, is heavily involved in the construction industry, and he would attest that the costs are definitely going up as a result of inflation, and even just a 3% tax increase would definitely cause a major burden to the business, and which is why we've chosen to be in opposition of this particular bill. So with that said, now that our positions have been made public and have been made clear, I also want to emphasize, should any of these bills pass, all I ask is that this committee, put in put put in additional protected funding for enforcement. So that's one of the major concerns that if we does pass, we just want to make sure that the agencies are adequately funded to help enforce this. So that's one of the main asks that we were asking for. Other than that, that concludes our oral testimony, or my oral testimony.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Manglona.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of this body. I want to, well, for the record, my name is Jim Atalik, and I'm the chairman for the 19 Rota Municipal Council. I'd like to comment on House Bill 23-41, to establish the excess tax for peanut and lime. Just mentioned earlier, Mr. Chairman, that this is just for importation from other places, right? It's not from like the local peanut, right? Or that's included?
Import.
No, the importation of the bitter nuts
Yes.
from outside, right? So what about the one that's locally sold here or in our islands? That included?
No, this would be imported. They'll, by customs, will weigh it at the ports. And then
Okay, so it's not going to affect the local
No.
economy, right?
No.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing there, House Bill 23-68 to impose a 10% tax. As you may know, that Rhoda is very expensive, right? Just bringing in vehicle to Rhoda costs maybe $5,000 to $6,000, and the stevedoring charges a lot. So this 10% will really put a burden on our people, especially private. You know, like the chief mentioned earlier about trying to find a very affordable vehicle out there just to bring over to our island, because it's so expensive to get a new one, especially, you know, if you're living payday to payday. It's hard, right? So we just gotta look into this one, because it's just like 10% is just too much for our local, especially these business people are being excluding on from this 10%. So it's better we charge the business than charge this person, you know, the private people, because they're just trying their best, right? And the House Bill 23-78 to increase the tax imposed on soft drinks and alcoholic beverages. For Rhoda, I don't want to say maybe Saipan or Artina because it's a lot closer, but for Rhoda, as you all may know again, that it's already expensive here. By adding this again, it's another burden to the people of Rhoda. I mean, we all have to come together and find a way to help our people, not to put the burden on back of them and let these business people, but we're here for our people. And speaking on behalf of the people of Rhoda, it's hard. Just a can of corned beef is $8. And the gas is maybe $7. And it's just hard here on our island. And I ask this members of this body, the chairman and everyone, please, we gotta think about Rhoda because it's hard. I know every one of you guys have a heart for Rhoda, so please think about our life. The cost of living here is very expensive. And I did not oppose or anything, but I'm undecided right now because I just want to comment on this House bills. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Nathalie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the island of Rhoda and welcome home to Senator Paul, Senator Donald, and Senator Dennis. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to make our comments for this public hearing. For the record, my name is Avery Calvo. I am the resident department head for the Department of Finance. The bills that you have before us is very hard. And I have to take a look at it from the standpoint of the Department of Finance. And in as much as I understand the reasoning behind trying to have these revenue generating bills, I would like to put everything on the air of caution because each and every one of these bills will affect the island of Rhoda much more disproportionately than the island of Saipan and Tinian. So I would like for you guys to go back and maybe make adjustments to each and every one of these bills so that you guys can address that disproportionate economic impact for the island of Rhoda. For House Bill 2307, in general, I support the bill, but there are some parts here that I ask for much more clarification, and that is how the dividends will be put out. If I remember correctly, 40% goes to GHLI, 40% goes to the Medicaid co-share, 30% goes to CHC Health Network, 5% goes to the Tobacco Control Fund, and 2% is for tobacco enforcement. I had asked previously Senator Donald for clarification on that because that ends up to more than 100%. For the portion that is supposed to go to enforcement, I ask that you guys consider that to increase it because 2% is not enough to address the issues that this bill will create. We will have to address issues such as smuggling and tax avoidance. So all the proportions that you guys have, yes, they go to public health programs for prevention and cessation programs is what I'm understanding. However, you need to look at enforcement as a form and mechanism for prevention as well. And 2% is not enough for the islands of Saipan, Tinian, Rhoda, and the Northern Islands to share amongst each other. And I also ask that you guys understand how funds are divvied up. There needs to be language where a portion goes to Saipan, a portion goes to Tinian, and a portion goes to Rhoda. I ask that you guys protect us in that way. The enforcement for this type of bill, we will need to, we would need more staffing, more equipment in order to address these things. And I'm asking this on behalf of Customs Biosecurity and the Department of Commerce as well, because we're going to need to revamp our strategies when it comes to this. It seems like it's such a small thing, but it's going to bring a lot of public health issues like purchasing of cheaper products. People are going to start trying to devise ways to sell individual sticks out of the package, and that has happened in Saipan and in Rhoda. And fortunately, we've addressed that and taken care of that issue. As in regards to House Bill 2341, in general, I do support that, being that it does not affect our local beetle nut business. However, I ask the same, that you guys consider increasing the amount for enforcement, not only for customs biosecurity, but you are also going to have to consider including the Department of Public Safety. We are going to see an increase in theft and property destruction. So, and again, I ask that you make sure that there is language, that there is a portion going to each individual municipality. For House Bill 2368, as a Department of Finance person, I'm a little bit undecided on it, although I understand the reasoning behind it. I want to say that I support it, but also as a citizen and a private citizen who's had to pay over $5,000 to ship in our car, this is going to be something that I need for you guys to take a look at and see whether there's a way to do this and address the issues that Rhoda experiences and our challenges with our stevedoring issues and our shipment issues. For House Bill 2378, I support the tax increase to be imposed for soft drinks and alcoholic beverages. But again, you guys will have to take a look at the enforcement section and also include biosecurity, commerce, and DPS in those distribution of funding, as well as ensuring that there is language that funding will go to each particular island. For House Bill 2374, unfortunately, at this time, being the language of the bill is not exactly too clear for me to make a decision, so at this moment, I oppose this bill. And only because of how it would negatively impact the island of Rhoda. I understand that it does not really affect residential buildings, but it will affect our ability here on Rhoda to have the infrastructure that we lack and for all other commercial constructions that needs to happen. I know you guys have driven around Rhoda and you see that there are so many things that needs to be addressed. Shipping of materials is, the cost is something you can't even begin to understand how a cinder block has become $7. So you can almost say that even building a residential home is so difficult. A one-bedroom home is nearly impossible for even somebody who has a combined household income of $90,000 because of the cost of just the materials alone. And that's not even including the fact that we are very limited with our construction companies here. So we have very little resources, and I ask that you guys take this bill back and revamp it to something that will be more beneficial to everyone on all three islands. If you guys don't have any questions for me, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Artie Como.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of this body. My name is Ronit James Nicholas Taiskan. I'm the resident department head for Commerce. And You know the intention of you guys build very good intention because it would help me get back to my salary and 10% cut, that's a lot. And with all the expense here in Rota, it's very high. So first of all, on the House Bill 23-7, I don't know how you guys come about of not just only for customs and taxation, then whatever CHC and where's the ABTC department there? I mean, if you guys want us to enforce something, I would recommend that you guys help us, the Department of Commerce. Not just Commerce, but at least ABTC enforcer. It's very hard. And I request for the last fiscal budget, I was not given to hire additional person. The officer right now has intention of retiring. I don't know how I'm gonna replace that with we need to be proactive in preparing somebody to be in that department because it's not just when you hire today, they're gonna learn today. It's gonna take a while. With a lot of certification, a lot of training, it's hard. So the intention of all this bill, I really support it. But to me, as individual, as a consumer, I did not, I oppose to this. It's hard enough. The people of Rota is hard enough now to, I mean, why am I supposed, I'm trying to send a vehicle over from Saipan. And they're charging me 5,000 some. Why am I be the one to pay for the stevedore? Or whatever it costs. The first thing they tell me, oh, you have to pay stevedore. What? I mean, I thought only shipping. Shipping itself is already over $4,000. Then, including 5,000, Jesus Christ. Then you're going to charge us additional 10%? Help us here. We're struggling. And I'm just talking on my own behalf here as a consumer. It's not just only the department. The departments, it's there already. But what I'm saying is only for the people here I'm asking. I mean, the good thing about the House Bill number 23-41, it's good because you guys are taxing imported. Very good. But you know what else? I mean, let's look at it. Those sweet potato that's leaving Rota to Guam, is there what's that, export tax? We should tax them. That one is very important because it's going out of Rota. I don't know if there's an export tax. So it's not just only sweet potato, taro, could be anything else. I don't know. Because I'm not working at the port. But in the previous years, those are the things that's been export. I don't see any, I mean, it's a good business probably, but for only individual. What about our people for taxing, We need help. I mean, I understand increasing the tax because we're all in austerity. I mean, it's enough already, it's austerity. 70 hours that's a lot. It's a lot for our people here. They're struggling. I mean, dispensado lo tas sira be ang si komero saipan da be faisen kusinon sulyo ole. Say unmano ka na igwini. Kana 30 pesos. Manama si totoluta. Enige comprende por favor. Sa Ginebe, faman quarterleg next happen sa $30 sa yung cash. Lohono fund the fund ni quarterleg gini. Idos pedaso fanan $7 or $10. Sa nits ka be pasi ifleti mogi man se fa sa sina be na famboke familia un mes. Kiedze be fund $30 gini $10 or $20. Un office lang niya para sumen para fansena nes todos agupa para barbecue. So hasufan bonita intention ni Bio. Luman nama si totoluta mampus wagon. Enwa si Jus Mose.
Thank you, Adi Tescan. The last individual on the list, as I've stated earlier, is the president for the Rota Chamber of Commerce. However, he is unable to make it. We did receive written comments, 5 individual comments for the 5 tax bills that are on the agenda. Just briefly looking through that, since we just received it not too long ago. I think for the record, the 5 comments all oppose all these tax bills that are listed on the agenda. Thank you. We're just wrapping up the invited testimonies, and so now the floor is open to the general public, and so you may now proceed. And please state your name for the record, and if you wish to share any entity you are representing today. Thank you.
Good morning. I know I get your attention. My name is Norbert Mundo. I'm a retired, living on Social Security. It's hell living here. With this taxes that we're gonna impose, I don't know. Are we gonna keep our people, or are we gonna chase our people away? Because living on Rhoda, either you're crazy or you love it here. I make a lot of money living here because I don't have to pay taxes when I left California. In California, they tax you on everything. So this kind of tax, the CNMI is broke. We don't even have a medical referral somewhere. So the only thing here that I am against is the vehicle that's coming in to the island. Now to bring a vehicle in, they're over $50,000. So if you're gonna impose a 10% on that, can you imagine? That's $5,000, not including shipping and not even stevedoring. So in all essence, it's gonna cost you almost half the price of the vehicle. Why not go somewhere else to get taxes? All these vehicles that's running around, every time they register, they should be imposed based on the value of that vehicle. That's where CNMI is not making any money. That's a good tax. Every time you transfer a vehicle from one owner to another, you pay the registration because you have to re-register that vehicle. The 5% of that tax is, will help out some of the problems we have. The rest, I support we need the money. I don't know where we're gonna get our money, but only for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mundo.
Okay. So let's move that a little bit further. Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Pedro Q. de la Cruz. I'm a private citizen and also I am a general contractor. Okay, actually, when I spoke with the chairman earlier and with this bill, I jokingly told him and said, I oppose everything. But then, but then I have thought about these issues. And of course, the Commonwealth is in dire needs of new revenue to survive. But however, some of this proposal that was brought up to here, I don't think it's going to help the Commonwealth because of the fact that it seems like we're just recycling old tax, what do you call this, ideas. And that, like, for example, that, that the taxes on tobacco. To me, it doesn't really matter to me that if you raise tobacco for, the sale of cigarette to $20 per every pack, plus sugar price, it doesn't matter to me because I don't smoke. I don't use it. I don't even chew betel nut, okay? But the issue here is, are we actually helping our people? Now, and the concept here is that, in all of the introduction, there's all of the intent and what's the findings and all this, which is true. And we know that for many years ago, that the tobacco industry in the United States, lost their lawsuit. And they have been paying a lot of programs to get people back to health. Okay? So this, like I said, to me, it doesn't really matter if the legislature wants to support this, and fine with me. But the only thing that I really have this thing, is that here is this line: tobacco taxation is an especially effective strategy to reduce the likelihood that young people use tobacco. I don't think so. This is a misnomer. And it doesn't matter, that if somebody wants to smoke or somebody wants to do that, but even if you increase the tax, they'll buy it, right? Secondly, with the definition of cigarette, and I was just sort of looking at this over here, okay? Under the amendment, section 2 says cigarette means and includes so, which is tobacco that's wrapped. And is marijuana included in this?
No.
No? Why? It is a form of tobacco. It is wrapped, right? So then somebody's going to have to come back and say, we're going to have to make this decision also. You know? So, so with me, with this one, Udo, I am neutral in this issue. You know, that if you pass it, it's good for me. And the issue here is, the next one is House Bill 23-41. I like this because of the intent of this is to protect and to promote local product. And I extend my congratulations to the legislature, because you know that if you want to do this, you should always protect local product. But at the same time too, you know, the chewing and to expand the usage of tobacco is not healthy. You know, not tobacco, what could chewing, okay? You know, not, because you turn around, you see a big splotches of red stuff right on our parking lot. And I hate that, because when I see people that did that right in front of my building, I get mad at them. And I tell them, you know, that I'm going to prohibit them from using the parking lot, or they get down and clean it. That's the only thing about this chewing betel nut. But the idea is to promote and to protect local product. I think it's a very good idea. And this issue with and House Bill 23-78 to impose soft drink alcoholic beverages. I think that the legislature is going too far with this one. You know, that the current tax that is extended on soft drinks is already enough. You have your excess taxes, you have your container tax, you have your beautification tax. What else do you want? Because I know this, that I was in government at that time. This is when they tried to impose the beverage container tax. And the initial idea to impose beverage container taxes actually is for beautification, you know, cleaning, make sure you know that they're, you know, that they are not, what do you call this, you know, discard in public areas and all that, okay? And to increase this, you know, like you will be disenfranchising the people that uses this product. There's very little health issue on soft drinks if you drink it on a moderation, okay? So to me, I oppose this bill. And the other one is to impose a 10% taxes on imported vehicles. Is the legislature trying to persuade the people not to buy luxury cars? You know? Having people use luxury car means, you know, that the place and the people here has, you know, that their cost of living and their style has gone up, has improved. not driving dilapidated trucks or cars around. Secondly, the cost of vehicles here, $30,000 is, doesn't get you a good vehicle. It will get you a problem vehicle. And to me, this legislation, it seems like the legislature is trying to present people who said, hey, you do what we tell you, you buy what we want you to buy, and nothing else. Before you decide to buy anything, you come and see me. That's not democracy. And that's not private enterprise. So I oppose this bill. Previous speakers have spoken about the cost of freight, which is very true. Okay, and the amount of money that is needed to bring it here to Rota. Saipan and Guam, when you buy a car, you don't even have to think about your freight costs. Here, this is an added cost. So, let's try to help our people, okay? Rather than imposing additional taxes, we should try to find ways to improve their lives. And the last one here this is a doozy. To impose the 3% tax on the yearly gross revenue of construction activities. I'm a general contractor, and I think this legislation sucks. You know why? Because there are two things. Earlier, I was just talking with Senator Cicilline about that. I said, the idea of imposing these taxes would only be good if you're doing construction contract for the government with a CIP project and federal grant. How is custom or finance going to enforce the law for construction contracts that were executed between the private sectors? Especially contractors that comes in, this is outside the Commonwealth, of which payments are made directly through their corporate office. Okay? Are you going to go to that contract and say, hey, register your construction contract here? I don't think so. So enforcement and collection and all this is going to be rather impossible. That means that this collection will only be limited to contracts that are engaged between the contractor with the CNMI government. Other than that, or even the federal government, okay? Other than that, it's going to be really, enforcement is going to be really big problem. Secondly, that the cost of per square foot here already is very high. And that means that for every contract that I would engage, because I've already have to include, the current taxes and various others, that means that I have to add another layer of tax, which is the 3% of the contract that I'm going to have to pass on to the owner. To me, this is not going to hurt me, but it's going to hurt her and him and you. Because all I have to do is just pass it on. No? So I don't know what to say. Either the legislature, the only thing that they do this is just sit down and think about, oh, how are we going to tax this? But my recommendation is that I recommend that the administration of the legislature engage and see and do an inventory of all the tax laws that they have passed and see what kind. You know, that would be a very good exercise. Now, I know that I am rather negative up here, but I want to give you, members of the legislature, something to think about, which would be probably good. That I recommend the introduction of sales tax. Sales tax will be a continuing revenue, and it will increase as the population increases and the sales of goods of volume. When you look at it, that there are visitors, the tourists, and various others that come to the island and they buy goods and services, they're also contributing to the revenue, the tax purposes. Okay, so that means like that in the future, it means that if the population base is increased, that means that the demand for consumer goods will also increase, and at the same time too, the sales tax also increase. But of course, with the way the sales tax is going to be established, it's not just going to be just one rate. It's going to have to go to certain rates, okay? You know, goods and services, agricultural, and various others. Secondly, you know, okay, with the imports on goods and services like construction material that's to be used to relieve the contract, that can be billed under the excess taxes. Okay, but at the same time too, that taxes, so the once you convert that, that becomes a sales tax also. So that means there is a tier cost. That means there is a compounded cost. And I recommended this sales tax actually back in 1978 when the Commonwealth was just actually started, because we were looking for some revenue. I was part of the study group that we were trying to find ways of how to do this. Okay, that was when I brought this idea up. You know what was the reaction of the Department of Finance? The customer now, oh, we cannot do that. We have no way of collecting. And collection will be very, very hard, because you gotta have to do all your documentations and all that. You gotta have to go check them out. So okay, fine. But now, when you have your system where your points of sales is already there in your computer system, every day when you do sales, you separate that tax. Okay, and it wouldn't be a hard, what do you call this, exercise anymore. That's my recommendation. Impose that. Create a commission or create somebody to study this. Secondly, the other recommendation that I like to do is impose real estate tax. We are the only part of the United States that there's no real estate tax. There are a lot of developments. There are a lot of people are just developing. Outsiders are not developing, but they're not paying taxes. That's another issue. Rather than going through all this legislation and you keep passing all this, miniature bills to collect taxes, this is not the answer. So I leave you this with my testimony, and I hope that I am not too imposing, but I try to be honest and forward, and at the same time too, I give you some recommendation of how can we improve our economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. Floor is still open to any individual wanting to make comments today. All right, if there's nothing else, we just want to thank the invited entities as well as the general public for coming out to testify before the committee today. The committee has yet to schedule a meeting as to when we will mark up these bills. We still have Saipan to conduct a public hearing on these bills, and so as soon as we conclude the public hearing on Saipan, we'll issue out a memo to so that we can schedule a meeting for when the committee will take up these bills. And so we thank you for the valuable input that you provided today that will definitely help the team make an informed decision when it comes to addressing these bills. And so if any of you have any questions as to or would like clarification on any of these bills, the members will be more than happy to answer any questions or share some of the sentiments that you provided after this meeting. And so with that, again, thank you all for coming out this afternoon. And this concludes the public hearing today. And if I would like to open up the floor to any members for any announcements. Recognize Senator Babauta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to let everybody know here that tomorrow your EAGI committee will be conducting the public hearing for a judicial nominee, the incumbent Ms. Lillian, Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Lillian Adetanoyo, and you are all welcome to provide public comments tomorrow here at the courthouse at 2 p.m. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Senator Babauta. Any other announcements? Recognize Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. No announcement, but just a brief comment. As I sit here and I listen to every testimony provided by the entities and the general public, it is heartbreaking to really hear that because I've only been here the second day, and I could only imagine the financial burden and hardship that the people of Rhoda experiences with where things are right now. So I could only imagine the additional burden that it would impose on the people should these tax bills pass and enacted into law. I'm speaking for myself. I'm from Saipan, and I don't even think about things like this back home because it really doesn't have that kind of impact that I see here and hear through your testimonies. And so I will be very mindful of, of these bills when the committee comes into further discussions. And I think it's important and worth noting because if there is some misconception or misunderstanding of the bills being made clear that these proposed tax legislations are not introduced by the legislature as a whole, okay? Like I really need the people to understand the difference between when we get lumped into one bucket, so to speak. These proposed legislations are not, we didn't introduce them as a whole. Like these bills were introduced by individuals from the House of Representatives. So it is, for me, it is so important that the people know that this is not a bill collectively introduced by the legislature. And that's all I have. Thank you, Chair. I yield.
Thank you. I recognize Senator Mendiola.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo the chairman too and commend some of the people that came out and gave some testimonies tonight. I think it's really important for us to understand everybody's point of view. Mr. De La Cruz kind of stated that he's being negative, but I actually appreciate some of the recommendation rather than just coming up here and saying no, 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 no. You actually provided with some clarity and some history to some of the stuff that you've done during your tenure, during your time in government. So I appreciate that, and I wish that more of our community come out so we can get all these sentiments. So when we deliberate, it's a lot easier for us to just, yay or nay, because now we take the whole public and just kind of, vote based on their sentiment if it's conducive to what we're doing. So for those guys, for those of you that came out and, shared your testimonies and gave us your point of view in terms of these tax bill, because like some of you guys have stated, at the end of the day, the tax will be passed on. No consumer or no business entity is just going to sit here and say, okay, I'm going to absorb this 3% tax or 10% tax, and I'm going to get, call it quits. It's going to be passed on to the consumer, which our general public really is going to have to absorb this. And with how high everything is here in Rhoda, it's really challenging for anybody just to, for example, a can of soft drink. It's I don't know anybody that enjoys soft drink. I'm sure beer, it's a different argument, because it doesn't matter how high the tax goes, there's still parties and fandangos and everything. But, when it comes down to soft drink, I don't see too many people drinking soft drinks or sweets for that matter. So anyways, with that, Mr. Chair, thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Senator Mendiola. I recognize Senator Paul.
Chairman. First, I want to thank everyone for coming here and sharing your thoughts on this legislation. And I echo Senator Corina's comment, where she mentioned that these bills are coming from, I guess, certain sponsors and coming out with ideas. So we're going to deliberate, and we take all your comments seriously. Actually, I'm kind of like excited with the turnout, that I wanted to ask the committee to sit down and let's deliberate right now, bill by bill, right? Because based on hearing your comments, there's some, I think, information that we need to put out more as to the intent of certain sections of the bills, and then to kind of generate discussion from you witnesses here today. And for example, let's just take, for example, this bill to increase the passenger vehicle excise tax to 10%. No, a discussion should be made, for example, as to maybe we exempt 1 or 2 cars per individual, right? For example, so that why is it that if you just buy, just like when you buy something, you say it's personal, right? And they kind of exempt you from the excise taxes. So maybe that could be a provision that we need to discuss here, because I think we need to mention that for example, in Rota, we don't have any car dealership, right? So maybe on Saipan, this is not an issue, because the dealership is charged 10% across the board, and all the consumers just go there and is told what is the price tag. But on Rhoda, when we go buy a car, you check on Saipan, right? And they say 30,000. You check on Guam, and if they say 25 for the same car, and okay, I factor in the stevedoring costs and shipping, I'll just buy it from Guam, no? Or used cars, there's a significant difference. So I think, we hear you, and it's very tough, because then if you impose a 10%, that's now, instead of maybe it's more attractive now to buy from Saipan, but then the shipping costs might be more expensive, because we don't have those small ship that can carry. Mr. Frank Atalik has this small vessel that you can just bring 1 car, and he was charging very cheaply, right, per vehicle. And by the way, he went to Saipan, and in Guam, they welcome him. The government of Guam, when I visited them, they're very welcoming. They said whatever we can do. In fact, they tried to stop using the Ganyabo Basin. I went there and visited the Ports Authority and talked to the governor's staff there, and they said, we'll do whatever we can. We will not allow you to go to commercial port in in Agat will allow you to continue using the Ganyabot Basin. But yet in Saipan, Mr. Atalik wants to go there and bring one car every week or something like that. And the stevedoring or the CPA says, oh, no, wait, you cannot do that. And to this day, they will not allow Mr. Frank Atalik to bring one car from Saipan. It's just us killing ourselves there. And I don't know whether it's because of their contract with the Saipan stevedoring or what, but they could have operated where GPPC is operating one of those harbor small docking area, but they wouldn't allow them because all kinds of reasons they tried to bend backwards to not allow it. So that's the thing, the mentality that we need to change in our government, because there's just too much. And when I say change in the government, let's face it, here on Rota too, they accuse me of being politics with the Rota stevedoring. I don't have any politics with the Rota stevedoring. The owners, if they want to make money, go ahead and make money, but times have changed. Whereas maybe 40 years ago, we need such a company, but now we don't need such a company because there's only so many boats coming in here, and we cannot afford to pay 24-hour service stevedoring. We need to change that, and maybe we can have public works, or maybe we can have the mayor staff be trained on safety and equipment operation and let them run the stevedoring and make the people brief for maybe 3 years. And after 3 years, before that time, we assess our needs as far as shipping, stevedoring, harbor facility, and then we put out a bid. This is the problem, 30 years ago, they just renew without a bidding. That's the problem that I have. And so this is what I'm trying to emphasize to the new CPA board. Let's evaluate everything as far as shipping and stevedoring. You know that there's 2 or 3 companies that want to come every week to Rhoda, bring cargoes, but they don't want, because this week the load for the same cargo is 4,000 on Saipan. When it comes to Rhoda, it becomes 8,000 pounds. Those are the kind of things. We don't even have calibrated scales. They use a crane. I got all the information I sent to CPA, almost 62 pages of questions. Nobody want to answer my questions with regards to all of this. But I guess what I'm saying is, what I echo the people here in the discussion. I know that I appreciate Senator Selena and Senator Corina coming down here and hearing it from our people, because it's just too much to bring in a car. You have to make sure that the insurance is paid before it gets on the boat. You have to make sure that when it lands, they won't even release your car until you pay the complete cost of stevedoring. And I can go on as to the breakdown of the cost to bring in a vehicle. So maybe if we want to pass this, maybe an idea would be exempt, individuals, maybe 1 or 2 cars, and then maybe this bill might work. So those are the kind of also on the construction tax, because I see several contractors here. The intent actually of this bill was to kind of target the military projects, but we cannot just say for military projects. So that's why they increase it to 250. But 250 might be a number that's very low, because right now to build a house, it's around 300, maybe 350. So maybe if we're going to pass this, maybe increase it to 350. But then again, the accounting aspect here is, how do you, if you do a lot of these small projects, at the end of the year it becomes 1 million. So I guess you have to make sure that you segregate private homes from apartment buildings, commercial buildings, then that's how they tax you. That's hard to monitor, but that's the intent here. And so I think it's a good idea if we can kind of fix the kinks here and there, to make sure that it's only targeted. It will target mainly the military and also the federal money, right? Like we have federal funds doing multi-million-dollar projects, and that one will not hurt the owners, because the owners or the money is coming from the feds, right? So will just mean that when you request for funding, you ask for more funding. So that's the intent here. But sometimes when you try to do something good, there's things that fall through the crack and have a negative opposite intent, right? So those are the things that we need to discuss, and I wish we can discuss it here, but we will be coming out with amendments and on most of these bills, and then maybe hopefully we can share that to the media so you can have access to those. So I know that I think I'm going out of order here, but I just want to mention that, no? And I appreciate your presence here, and hopefully in other hearings you continue to follow us, because for my committee on PUTC, I hope to have a public hearing here on Rhoda on shipping issues and CPA issues. I want to ask you to please come in, and let's do a discussions on this so that we can thoroughly address the economic challenges that we have here on Rota. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Paul. And yeah, so in closing, this already passed the House, and so this is the last line of defense. The Senate is here to hear out all the concerns brought up by the public, and so we will take all your comments into consideration in terms of either making the bill better or shelving some of the bills that maybe may not. But then again, thank you all for sharing your thoughts. And so with that, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn today's meeting, subject to the call of the chair.
All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. This public hearing is hereby adjourned at 5:21 p.m.